Hi guys, my name is Yichao. I'm the Wizards Play Network Community Manager, and joining me today is DeQuan Watson, Trade Marketing Manager, and we're going to be chatting a little bit today about marketing and some of the different kind of aspects therein and options out there. We're going to be opening it up to you guys for your questions on this topic, and also more so than that, we'd love to hear your comments and input, what you guys are doing that you found effective. The reason why we're talking with DeQuan today is because before DeQuan joined us here at Wizards, he was the owner of a store himself, a retailer.
Yeah, actually, the Game Closet in Waco, Texas, actually, for 16 years, surprisingly.
Surprisingly.
I tell people that, and they're like, really, that long? But yeah. And it was really an interesting experience, truthfully. I think it allowed me to gather a lot of things to bring into the building, to really help with some of the efforts and projects we have going on, especially on topics like this where we're talking about marketing.
Right. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, and just chat with you about what you guys did when you were with the Gaming Closet.
We did quite a few things, actually. We kind of approached stuff as a widespread effort, because I don't think there's any one form of marketing you can focus all your efforts on. There's something, if you read business books, they'll tell you anywhere between 7 and 12%, depending on your scale of business, should be put toward advertising efforts or marketing efforts. So really tried to spread that around and draw in a bunch of people from a lot of different areas. One thing too I want to point out is don't make your focus just gamer or geek centric. There's a lot of customers that you have access to that you may not even think about, especially when you start involving schools and other types of public places like libraries and whatnot. Yeah,
so you guys, you actually recently wrote an article about this very topic. You guys can find those articles at wpn.wizards.com under our article section. But in the article, you talked a little bit about some of the things you tried at first that didn't work very well for you and how you guys shifted from that. Do you care to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely had some failures. But one of the big ones for us was television. When you first start and you open your business, you hear a lot of television ads, you see commercials, and you think that's kind of the way to go.
Sure.
But it didn't really work out for us, truthfully. I mean, it was one of those things where the more we looked at the numbers, the cost was just really prohibitive for what we were able to get. And even worse is we didn't really know the best time spots.
Sure.
Because we have customers that work the graveyard shift just as well as we have the 9-to-5ers, we have teachers. At our store we had like pharmaceutical reps, firefighters. So everybody's watching TV, if they're even watching TV,
Right.
at different times. So what we ended up ultimately doing was getting with the TV station, and we just kind of sat down with them, tried to work out a plan, and discovered that they actually have packages where some of the spots don't sell, and they just piece those together for people to purchase. And those were super cheap by comparison, and we actually ended up getting some primetime spots along with just programming throughout the day that ended up reaching a lot of people. So that ended up being hugely beneficial for us, and the cost was extremely low.
That's really cool. So I think that obviously for maybe a new retailer starting out, they're like, well, how do I reach out to a television station to get that kind of a deal? How can I possibly do something like that? What advice would you say?
I would say literally just go through your community and look at all the different areas there could be events, all the different types of places you would like to advertise, and just go build those relationships. You should have somebody at the television station and the newspaper and your community center and the Chamber of Commerce. Like all of those places have people that will be able to help you for future marketing efforts.
Speaking of the newspaper, you talk a little bit about how you don't feel newspaper ads might be necessarily the best way to go, but rather articles. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
The thing about ads versus articles is that when you put an ad in, it's a very wide thing that you're trying to promote for unless you're targeting it to a particular event. But at the same time, you don't necessarily know if somebody's even going to look at an ad. But a lot of times, stories get more traction. Especially even in this day and age where a lot of newspapers are taking their stories and moving them digital. So you'll see a lot of those things get shared on Facebook and other places where you wouldn't necessarily get that with just an ad being in there. And what we've done is almost every time we were doing a charity event or something big that was a positive story, even when we moved to our bigger location, we made that a big deal, did a little party and everything else. and made sure that people knew about it. And it actually was really, really good for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love the idea of sharing with your community via paper and also getting advertising from that.
Definitely.
We'd love to hear from you guys. If any of you guys are watching, have cool events that you've shared successfully, whether it's via newspaper articles or similar. If you guys want to share some of the things that you guys have been doing that you found has worked as well. So in addition to newspapers and TV, you also talked about setting up things with public events. And you mentioned like getting to know somebody at your Chamber of Commerce. What does that entail and what does that mean?
It kind of comes back to the thing we mentioned earlier, where you have more customers that you have access to than people often think about.
Sure.
And sometimes that's just about going out to a new place or a new area and reaching people you wouldn't necessarily get in front of. And in our community, we had a mammoth site actually where they did a mammoth dig and everything else.
Oh,
so
neat.
we got with them, and they did an event where we were able to set up for free, and it was just a stream of people all day long. So we got a lot of extra traction out of that, and it didn't cost us much of anything. But that still doesn't include music festivals, any public fairs or any parades, any of that type of stuff. And we've seen some people share some of that recently on our WPN group, where somebody got involved with one of their parades, and just making a spectacle got people to go, oh, well, who are these people? What's going on? So there's a lot of different opportunities out there, and you kind of just have to open up your eyes to just new stuff that's not necessarily gamer-centric all the time.
Totally. That's awesome. You also talked about advertising at your local theater in a similar way, right? Not buying ads at the theater, but rather going in person.
Yeah, and and it's tough because depending on the theater, at least in our case, it was very cost prohibitive. I mean, we thought we were getting a good deal because we bought, I believe it was 6 or 9 months in a package, which was fine, but we really weren't getting much return for it. As time went by, we'd see one person. All right,
and
looks like we're good.
We're back. Sorry about that.
But yeah, what I was saying is we didn't want to walk away from the theater as an advertising venue entirely. There was still an opportunity, obviously still tons of people coming through. But what we did get the benefit of with all of the geek culture that's been around lately is we were able to go in and we made a deal with them to set up in their lobbies. So what we did is when we had products that aligned with the movies, whether it was Star Wars or superheroes or whatever, we would go in and set up a little booth, do some demos, hand out some cards or some flyers, and we saw almost immediate return on traffic from that versus being on a screen where sometimes, even if you have a good ad, by the time you get to the end of the movie, people don't remember it,
Right.
Or if they're even there early enough to see it.
Totally, yeah. It is the thing of being physically present makes a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if somebody has a question, you can kind of put your perspective on it, really let them know who you are, what you do. And a lot of times just being tactile kind of has a benefit to that.
Sure, yeah. I know I'm definitely the guy who shows up like 5 minutes into the preview.
Yeah, exactly.
So I miss all the commercials.
Yeah, you wouldn't say any of that anyway. So yeah, definitely having something in that regard where you can be physical in front of people is really, really good to do.
Great. So yeah, so in terms of marketing, there's a lot of options, I think, for retailers in kind of this traditional space. But also, obviously, there's a lot of digital options as well. Did you guys make use of email marketing and all that kind of good stuff?
We did a little bit, and that's probably something where it came up a little bit short. We did a lot of ours, we would try to tie either to an upcoming event or we would use it to do like surveys, so we could get better feedback on what was and wasn't working.
Cool. Yeah, and in addition to those kind of efforts, we also recently had an article that talks specifically about email marketing and kind of 3 really great kind of companies and programs that helps manage that. We have MailChimp, Constant Contact, and GetResponse, all our services that retailers have reported success in using in generating the kind of email marketing campaigns that are very useful. And again, you can check out our articles for a little bit more details about what that's all about.
Actually, while we have a moment, another thing I want to tell people is don't miss the opportunity to cross-promote with other businesses.
Yes.
I mean, we did stuff with a ton of different places. There was like a wine garden type area that we scheduled just a game day there where people got to come play like really light board games, and that was really popular. I mean, we did stuff with schools for a while where we went out and did stuff with them. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities that you just kind of have to take the time to look around or ask your customers like, hey, where are you hanging out? Or where have you been that people saw you gaming and wondered what you were doing? There's a lot of different ways to kind of figure out maybe where you're missing people, or even just an entirely different demographic that you didn't know was even an option.
Yeah, I like the idea of trying to find the people that you aren't currently speaking to, because I think that's something we can be all very guilty of, which is, well, we know these people are listening to us, so we're just going to talk at them, when there's this whole other group of people that we can tap into.
Yeah, I think where that comes from is it's really easy to tell yourself, okay, well, I want to spend my efforts here because I know these are geek-centric or gamer-centric people, so I'm going to immediately see people back from it. But in some regard, you know, if you already are doing all the other things, you're probably going to reach some sector of those people anyway. Sure. So is there a way you can get those other people that you wouldn't necessarily see? And I think that's kind of what you have to at least put some reasonable, I would say maybe 20-25% of your efforts into, if you want to get truly new customers and fresh money through your doors.
Yeah, and in that vein too, just talking a little bit about word of mouth. Obviously, you know, there's kind of two things that I've heard that are a little contradictory, but I think are interesting. One is that word of mouth is your best form of advertising, right? Which is like, it's great to have people talk about your business. But the other thing that I heard that I like a lot is word of mouth should be a result of your marketing efforts, not your marketing effort, right?
Yeah, really, you know, and I would even go further. Is like word of mouth is almost a result of doing your job well. You know, if you're running a good store and it's well staffed and it's clean and, you know, all those things, people go talk about that. But at the same time, that doesn't necessarily generate action. That doesn't necessarily generate immediate interest. Sometimes they're already talking to somebody who's already interested, or maybe has already heard about you, so that's part of the conversation. But there's something to be said for positive reviews, right? Like, so having those people out there talking about you is something you want, but you can't rely on it. Like, relying just on word of mouth or using that as your main point of promotion is going to limit your reach pretty well.
Awesome. Real quick, we wanted to jump into the comments. Jason Clark shares, when I was a TO in California, we used Facebook to promote an event we held for Child's Play, which is a fundraiser for benefiting different kind of charitable, it's a charitable organization kind of thing. And it was shared around 100 times, and we saw a ton of players we hadn't seen and a few out-of-towners who only heard of the event because of Facebook.
There you go.
Yeah, which is awesome. That's really cool. And speaking of Facebook, obviously social media marketing is a really big kind of opportunity for people to engage with new customers and existing geek communities as well, because of how targeted you can be with those ads.
Yeah, you know, and I think one thing too is when you go to post a Facebook ad, really take your time setting it up, because you can do everything from like how much you want to spend, how long you want it to run, you know, what demographics you want to target. And really think about that. Like if you're running a thing for, say, for a Magic pre-release, you know, maybe you want to reach out to other card gamers that you want to get in for the first time. So maybe other gaming products, you go, okay, cool, I want those people. But you may not necessarily want that for another thing you're doing. You know, so really think about how you set all that up.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that's challenging about social media is that it's constantly evolving, and it's kind of feels very big in its scope. And I think it's really sometimes hard to figure out what exactly your goals are with your social media presence and with your ad campaigns. If you guys are watching and have any thoughts of like, these are campaigns that we've run that was very successful, or you know, this is how we run our Facebook page and what we try to post about, we'd love to hear your thoughts about what you guys are doing there as well. In terms of things that we've seen other retailers find success with, you know, a lot of right now, the millennials tend to purchase and to think in terms of experiences over necessarily things, and that the young people value experiential, purchasing experiential opportunities more so than just objects, right? We recently posted an article that talks about a Harris study that shows 78% of millennials say that they value experience over things. And with social media, it's the way to amplify your cool and positive experiences and to create that sense of FOMO, a fear of missing out. And so if you show off an awesome pre-release event, it gives you a lot of marketing push and a lot of word of mouth from that as well, because it generates this kind of you know, this feeling from the players of, oh, I really want to be there because I don't want to miss another cool thing like this.
Well, you know, and one of the things we talked about even in our store at one point is I had my staff kind of slowly transitioning from when a customer walks in and says, oh, hey, how many people showed up to Friday Night Magic? Instead of just saying, okay, well, there was X number of people, we're like, oh man, this really cool deck won. Or we gave away this thing this Friday, it sucks you weren't here and you missed it. You know, so you create that little bit of excitement that, man, I should have been here, you know, and really capitalize on that. Even when you post stuff online, as far as like your Facebook ads and other stuff, use pictures, talk about upcoming events, anytime you have something big in public, like we've talked about, like a charity event, that sort of thing, make sure you're highlighting that stuff other than just saying, hey, we're doing this week. If you can tie it to something cool, even, like in June, there's Father's Day. Like, there were some stores I saw that are doing Father's Day promotions of different kinds. Like, tie your events into that type of stuff. So it's an extra thing for them to think about and associate with what you're doing.
Awesome. Justin P. Schofield commented, I'm currently a TO in Maple Ridge, British Columbia. I get a lot of good traction with social media and reaching out to current existing players like that. Excuse me. Bringing brand new players in has mostly been word of mouth so far.
Yeah, that's a tough thing for a lot of stores, and that's one of the things, even as a department here, we kind of focus on in trade marketing, is we're trying to really tap into the idea of, how do we get more people in the door? And some of these efforts, like we've talked about, are really good for that. Some of that is just physically getting out in front of people. Social media has been good and helps you reach out, but at the same time, it's like we're saying, you're getting some people you may already be getting, right. Same thing with the word of mouth thing. But going out and getting in front of those new groups gets you those brand new fresh faces. Because the other thing too is not just that you got that person, but now that person has a family. They've got their friends network. Totally. People that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. So if you can get one person, you may be getting 4 or 5 more indirectly.
Yeah, and the other thing too with how specific you can be with your Facebook ads, you can choose to target more tangential groups, right? Rather than just targeting people, between the ages of 15 and 25 or whatever, and just targeting people who are into trading card games. You can look at people who like strategy games in general, and try to broaden the scope and reach people who you otherwise aren't perhaps already communicating with.
You can also be really creative with your promotions.
Oh, yeah.
At one point we did a promotion where we basically had special business cards made that were, like $1 value off your purchase when you come in, just flat. And people thought we were crazy because they were saying, well, you're just going to give people money when they come in? So, well, we'd be doing that if we were advertising anyway. So True. We would use it when we go out and eat, and if we had our game stuff with us, a waiter or waitress might be like, oh, hey, what is this? Or where do you guys pick up your stuff? So we'd leave one with our tip, or when we're out on the disc golf course, we'd be like, hey, why don't you guys come by, check out our store? And just that little bit was drawing those extra people in that wouldn't necessarily come in otherwise, because it was a flat number, they knew what they were getting, and they walked in the store for the first time. And it was super minimal cost. And all you do is sell one thing, you still made some money, or at least broke even, to get that person in your front door. So it was really awesome. Cool.
Let's go ahead and jump over to the comments a little bit. I see we have some people chiming in with some of the things they've done. So let's see. Jay says, we used a social media blitz to great effect. The video was shot in store before midnight and showed all the players shown to all of the players during around 2. Not everyone had the capacity to edit and produce video that quickly, but we had a great videographer. So basically, Jay's talking about very fast reaction kind of things, right? Like, so they generated a video just before an event, and then was able to share it with the people in store and generate that excitement within the store itself, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I watched the video a couple of times, when we were going through all the stuff and all the efforts we saw from people doing stuff for Shadows. And it was very cool. It was something that, he got his players involved. It added the flavor to what you wanted, and it's something that you can look back later and you can use that for other promotional efforts now that it's complete and say, this is the kind of stuff we do at our store. This is what goes on. So now you're kind of building that library of things.
Right.
So when people kind of start searching around or they're checking Facebook or YouTube, they kind of see that, man, this store really does stuff. I should probably come check them out.
Yeah. Desmond Blackstone chimed in and said that we always flood our Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr with hundreds of photos during a set release, and that tends to draw in a ton of new players who usually jump in on the next set release. They also use business cards that doubled as tokens for Magic. That's great. You give somebody something to take home that's useful right away in the game, and that they can also take home and remember your store by. That's really cool. And I think that really being active and posting and sharing all of the fun excitement does the very thing of generating that fear of missing out.
Oh, yeah.
That showing the event that you're running is super exciting and fun.
And people do respond to visuals. If you can take the time to put that stuff up, other than just like we were saying about the F&M thing, we posted up, hey, you guys should have been here. We had, 40 players or whatever.
Right.
Whereas you take a picture and go, man, we had a full house. Like that has totally different impact, even though it's technically the same thing.
Sure.
So you really have to think about that when you put it up, even in terms of like, what would catch your interest when you're scrolling through it?
Yeah.
That's something to think about sometimes.
Definitely. And I think it's also, that's the power of social media, right? Is that when you show off your players having a great time, they're going to share that with their friends, and generate that kind of mini viral effect for you, right? Which is really what we're desiring. I think, there's obviously a lot of really exciting options, and if you guys have stories of marketing efforts you have that you want to share in greater detail with us, you definitely should do that. We'd love to feature things that are exciting and are working for you, and share those practices so other people can take advantage.
Always share stuff. Like, that's one of the reasons we have the WPN group, is we want retailers sharing cool ideas for both other retailers to see, and even for us, where we may have missed an opportunity and an idea. And so it'd be really, really neat to share and even just see with what we're giving you what you're able to do with it.
Yeah, we love seeing the photos and video you guys you post. You can also always send things into WPNstories@wizards.com as well if you want to share things that way. But yeah, they're really great and helpful for other retailers who are looking to expand what they're doing as well. If there aren't any other further questions at this point, I want to thank you guys for watching and checking in. We hope that you found this video useful and helpful. You can also find this video later on the WPN YouTube page as well. The last thing I'll leave you with is think about the very medium you're on right now, live streaming on Facebook.
Exactly, I was just about to say that.
Yeah, it's new and it's exciting and it's a lot of fun. We're enjoying it so far because it gives us a chance to talk directly with you guys. I think there's a lot of potential here to create really cool content that you can use to help promote your stores.
People like seeing gamers do gamer things.
It's true.
So definitely share that. And we hope you guys get a lot of new faces in your front doors.
For sure. If you have any questions or thoughts, do contact us, whether you're reaching out on Facebook or email, and we'll look forward to chatting with you guys more about 2 weeks from now for the live stream and anytime on the internets. Take care, guys.